start with Jean.
I never have time to think. Oh my gosh, that's a huge question. Yeah, right. And I'm not a leadership expert. I guess I'm here as a friend of Grace's and being on this WLI committee and various other pieces, and my own experiences, I guess, being in a corporate role. So I don't really have, I guess, an articulate answer to that question. But for me, I think one thing that Gary spoke about earlier, and I think that's incredibly important, and it's something that I think everyone in this room can actually do any day of the week, is create the environment for women to flourish as leaders. And I think everyone's touched on this actually. What Cassie said that about her allies and the friendships that she lost, that made me incredibly sad, Cass, because that stuff is not helpful. That doesn't create a little ecosystem where women can flourish, where women can trust each other, where women can go to each other for real support, genuine support. What Evonnie was saying about drawing on your social capital, I think that's really critical as well. And I think these are all the things that we can do. I mean, I don't foresee us in our next chain of elections having, 5 women in Parliament. Maybe we'll get 2. We'll be lucky, if we get a couple of them in there. But the thing is, we have to start. Great to see that we've got the women in Gary's province at the local level government. I know in Moresby, some of the women really struggle to get into local level government, and that's the thing. I mean, we have to start somewhere. We are starting. We've got to continue to push. I meet amazing women all the time. I met actually it was my own auntie, but I'm very proud of her. She's works with women in agriculture, and the amount of amazing that she's done for women's leadership in agriculture. She was coming down here this morning for a board meeting, and just talking to women like that, I'm really inspired, because I think, it doesn't matter where you are. I see women, Papua New Guinean women in corporate office in Sydney, in these amazing meetings. They're executives now for Oil Search. I'm incredibly proud. I went to Alaska recently and I saw a Papua New Guinean engineer there, and these women are just kind of dynamic. But then at the grassroots level as well, we see our coffee farmers and that. These are women who are in leadership positions. So I think, for me, it's about creating that ecosystem, and it's not about having a female prime minister tomorrow or 5 members of parliament immediately, but it's about getting that momentum going and keeping it going.
Yes, again, it's a hard question. I don't know how to answer that, but I can only relate to what we are doing back in our province. And education, I believe, is really the key. Education and understanding the rest of the world and how we fit into that world. We're just a nation of only 40 years old, and I know this may sound like an excuse, but prior to that we were 1,000 little countries living in very hostile conditions. We didn't have the police, we didn't have a justice system, we didn't have entities that encouraged gender equality, etc. We just had to survive as tribes. And to survive as tribes, you had to be very aggressive. You had to be fierce. If you went out there throwing flowers and singing nice songs, you'd end up in cooking pots. You'd never exist. You won't be around. It was that simple, You were a nice person, singing nice songs, in love with everything that lived. I tell you what, your existence would be very short-lived. And the tribes that had to survive had to be very fierce and aggressive. Might was right at that time. That's the reality. And that time was not long ago. It's just yesterday. Just yesterday. 1936 in the Highlands, for instance. Not too long ago. We met our first white man. We weren't fascinated. We killed him and ate him straight away. That wasn't too long ago. My great-grandmother was the last person in my family who had humans for a meal. That's fascinating to many people, but this is the truth. I would sit with her and speak to her, and she said, yes, they'd bring them home and they'd cut them up, and they gave us kids these hands, and we chopped the fingers off and put them on a platter. The first finger food was us. That's it. That wasn't long ago. So at that time, those tribes, they had no choice. And they had to be survivors. It was a brutal society. History is filled with societies that don't exist because along came a greater, more powerful force. And guess what happened? You welcomed them with open arms and sang a nice song, tried to be considerate of every one of them. They would end you. So now, how do we transition from where that place was, where we were, to where we are now? All of a sudden, we have to put aside all that. It's in our DNA. It takes time. Education is the key here. It's going to take time to work this out, to put this behind us, you know. And our women were fierce as well. My great-grandmother was a war chief. She was a powerful woman. She lived until she was about 105. Just 2 weeks ago, my cousin brought me the clay pot that she made and left for me. It was a very solemn experience. But I always remember her because when I went home and I went up to see her, and she was an old woman sitting in her hut with her tattoos and her scars from her battles, she was a strong woman. And at that time, women had to fight. You imagine that you're in your tribe and suddenly you are attacked by an enemy tribe, and they have one mission: to end you. And you're a woman and you have to protect your children, and you have weapons. Are you going to suddenly say, I'm a woman so you can come and kill me? No, those women had to fight. They had to be warriors too. To transition from that period of time where we had to fight to survive, to live, because we didn't have a court system, we couldn't call 911 and the police would turn up and save all of us. There was no church to come and bless everybody and forgive everyone and suddenly we'd be at peace singing hymns. It was a brutal, violent society. To suddenly get away from that and then now be all accepting and peaceful and loving and caring and promoting everything that's about life and equality, it takes some time, that's all I'm saying. But it'll work with education. Education is the key. And eventually you will start to see more understanding. Now it's not about right, your might is right, although the US would disagree. But the fact of the matter is, you know, now it's about the mind and the heart. And if we can educate our people to put aside the aggression, it's no longer needed. We have to live together, work together to build this nation. Then we can start seeing progress. I'm like Jean here. I have hope for the future because it will happen in time. We're a 40-year-old nation. Wind back the clock for all these great developing nations that come and constantly instruct us on how to be. Wind back the clock for them to when they were 40 years old. And you say you took a time travel back to Australia or back to the US when they were just 40 years old as a country. Think about that. They had slaves. Aboriginals were not even recognized as human beings. They were on the flora and fauna list until removed by Gough Whitlam in the 1960s. They were no different from kangaroos and koala bears. Here, wind back the clock till you were just 40 years as a nation. How were you performing? Thank you.
So just to revisit the question, it was basically what my vision is for PnG women, ideally. Well, to be simple, thanks guys for that. To be simple, it would be the equal participation of women in all sectors of society, in terms of leadership and also a sense of say. Because, there are things that women have and women's needs that men don't know, unfortunately. And those are the things such as sexual harassment in the workplace. There are issues of, rape at the workplace. And these are things where we should be addressing at a corporate level without, government involvement, but corporations that are very, very, who are international, multinational companies should actually be addressing those things. And we should have the right laws to make sure that they comply with their own standards, to actually introduce those standards for us to use. But in a big I guess, wider view is I think we need to take a few steps back in terms of our history, and we need to revisit really who we are, because the problem we're having, I believe, is that we're going into this phase of, development on steroids, and, we are, we're really, really trying our best to catch up with the rest of the world. We're just, you can imagine the same year, 1975, when we got independence, Bill Gates brought Microsoft, introduced Microsoft to the world. So you can imagine what we've had in terms of time to catch up with everybody else. So I would say that, we're doing pretty well in terms of, even now in the last 5 years, I feel like men are partnering with women. Women need to also partner with each other. I would like to see more women support each other. I really think that there is so much infighting amongst our women, and we're actually slowing down the process because men are actually listening to us now. I believe PnG men are really listening, and they're like, okay, how do we do it? So they look to us, and then he says, that kind of thing we're having, which is it's probably got to unite, whether we like that person or not. We have to unite as women. I would like to see women unite and take the bold step of actually swallowing their egos, swallowing their pride, and say, you know what, we need to unite on all common denominators. We we can say, oh, look, you like ice cream, I like ice cream. Let's be friends. That kind of thing. As simple as that. We don't have to agree and disagree on everything. We're human beings. We're all different, men or women. I would like to see also that. I was the same as Gary. I was against the vote for the women's seats, but now I believe in it now because I obviously, being a women's advocate, I want to be able to say, hey, we can do it the same way men can do it. But I think if you want to speed up the process, we can at least guarantee 2 seats. We can at least guarantee 1 seat. So that there is representation for our issues that are relevant. I mean, our voices are not being heard right now, and we've actually taken, the country's gone really far. How did we not have representation in the parliament? I'm confused how that happened. Because I feel like as a people, we moved very far. Government needs to respond to that. And as Gary mentioned, yes, the issue we're having with elections, so that actually compounds the issue because there's corrupt elections. So then we've got to fix that issue. But in a big way, in a big picture, I would like it. I think that a lot of Papua New Guinea women are being educated. A lot of women are actually equipped. There's so many smart PnG women, it's ridiculous. And I'm seeing them everywhere around the world on Facebook. Now that Facebook has created that visibility of our successful PnG women, we made strides, massive strides. And we just need to, in terms of Papua New Guinea itself, I really think that we need to, individually in our cultures, we need to find out who we really are in some aspects. Because I think we're going to lose our culture, and I know that's a little bit off the subject, but I think it can also empower us back, because we've been told who we are in many ways. We've had to read, and we read encyclopedias to find out who we are. But who wrote those encyclopedias? For example, our parents, they're probably the last people that hold the history of our history, basically. And we're not saying, hey, let's sit down and let's actually write where I come from. I didn't even know, I only found out last year that, my granddad was a merchant, and he died traveling. He used to travel all the way to Tari and all these places, and he's from trading. I mean, you can imagine what we were doing, that we don't even know how advanced we were as a society. That gave me a lot of pride in some way, because I was like, wow, we were not that backward. You know what I mean? As you say it. And I met a historian who's an Australian historian who refuses to leave PnG. He says that PnG is his country. And he told me, he said, Cass, when the Pope first came to Papua New Guinea, he sent a representative. I forgot what year it is, but back in the 84. Okay. Well, he sent a representative, and that thanks guys. Oh wow. A lot of smart people in the room. I better not slip up. But yeah, apparently the note that went back to Pope was, look, we want to bring Catholicism here, but I feel that these people, if we bring our religion and bring the church and everything, I think we'll spoil them because they are already, I mean, I don't know how true the documentation was, but it's documented in history that there was no rape. There was no rape of women. I mean, that to me was a shock, you know? And so, because what I've been taught, you know, that we were like that, and we've always been like that. But in fact, you know, the Pope's documentations show that there was no rape, there was no molestation of women, there was no sexual abuse. Like they said, oh my gosh, if we bring he said these people may not know Jesus, but they're Jesus in many different ways, yeah, like more than we are. And so that was really interesting to hear that was that. So I'm saying that maybe part of that is obviously what we're already doing, but also taking a few steps back and revisiting who we actually are as a people. So yeah, I mean, do you agree? Like, I mean, just get some engagement, because we don't really know, honestly. Like, I don't know like a lot of things about myself. I mean, my people and that kind of thing. I just know my tribe. You know, Nenga, Nengarongtom, all these kind of things, and that's it. Like, that's as far as it. But anyway, that's what I think.
Okay, women's leadership. I have 3 women who are very inspirational to me to this day. The first one is my grandmother. I think she didn't know how to write her own name. That time she passed away, but she could get up very early in the morning and cook for me. And I used to take breakfast from her to school. And the second woman is my mother. She inherited most of the good things and bad things from my grandmother, but the strength of my mother was realized when she was able to protect me and my siblings when we become refugees during a tribal warfare. My tribe was chased off the land and we had to build makeshifts up on the hills, and my mother had to go back and go to the battlefield and look for food while the men are fighting. She did not only look for food for us, but for the pigs and other people who didn't have food. So I thought my mother was the strongest person that ever lived, and my wife. I'm able to marry a woman who is educated, and she is raised by another man and woman. And I thank my wife's parents for raising her and giving her that education. And sometimes I feel that it's a gift that I must embrace, because work money long and all beginning now I'm wealthier than my uncles and other brothers. So I think looking at these 3 women, they show consistent leadership. And I work at the university and I see girls, and I am hopeful that they'll become leaders. I have colleagues who are women, and they speak during meetings. And I think some women leaders in organizations are the smartest people we have. And I think it's all about appreciating what they do and allowing both men and women to grow in whatever way we can. Because at the end of the day, we're building a country. And most of us in Papua New Guinea, or almost everyone, does not have a second country. It's the only country we have. So I think we have to build it together by respecting our mothers, wives, and I think our daughters will learn to change. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I'm very optimistic as well about the future of PNG. I see the future of PNG as female, and call me naive or crazy, but I really do. And like, you know, Gary said, and my sister there, really about education, right? So when you're talking about education, I believe that a lot of girls coming up now, like I said, 60% of the population in PNG right now is under the age of 25. And they need to see women, especially girls, we need to see to believe it, successful PNG women in their own right, in different industries, not just in business, education, being in a field of, you know, male-dominated industries, being able to succeed at that level, to be inspired, you know, that they can do that as well. So going forward, for me, I would love to see more education, more the government actually celebrating our women. You know, and that's something that we like. Can we just celebrate, like, pause as a country and just celebrate our women, because our PNG women's achievements are wide and varied and unrecognized. Unrecognized, even by the PNG media itself. And that's something going forward is I'd like to see more coverage on that, because I have two daughters, like I said, 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. And definitely I'm training them early to break the glass ceiling. And I would love to see more parents raise their children to be, you know, to value themselves and to feel like they can impact and make a difference in society in Papua New Guinea. So going forward, I'd love to see that, more women. So the future looks optimistic for PNG, at least from my point of view. Thank you.